Resident Evil 4.
Hey guys, it's Richard here. Thanks for checking out my channel. I'm here with my brother Brendan.
Hello.
We're both huge Resident Evil fans. We've had heaps of fun playing through Resident Evil 4 again recently, and I hope you enjoyed this video. With the Resident Evil 2 remake coming out in just a few weeks, I've been revisiting some of the earlier Resident Evil games. It has been a couple of years since I last played through RE4 on the PlayStation. Capcom's RE4 was released in 2005, and it is regarded as one of the best games ever made, with a Metacritic score of 96%, and is one of the fan favourites within the Resident Evil franchise. Even 14 years after its release, it is still an amazing game, and one whose influence is still felt in video games today. Resident Evil 4 takes place 6 years after the Raccoon City outbreak, caused by the evil Umbrella Corporation, which was the focus of the first 3 main series games. Resident Evil 4 follows Leon S. Kennedy in his first return since RE2. Now working for the President of the United States, Leon travels to rural Spain to recover Ashley Graham, the President's daughter, who has been kidnapped by a mysterious organisation. Leon is escorted to a village by 2 police officers and discovers that the villagers are under the influence of mind-controlling parasites called Las Plagas. You soon find out that the organisation responsible for kidnapping Ashley and releasing the Las Plagas is a religious cult called the Los Illuminados. The cult's plan is to infect Ashley before sending her back to her father, and to use that Plagas to bring down the United States from within. The game is divided into 5 acts and 3 main sections. The first part of the game revolves around Leon's search for Ashley, during which Leon himself is taken captive momentarily and injected with a parasite by the Los Illuminados. Leon eventually finds Ashley in a church and they seek shelter in a nearby castle for safety, but find it is used by the cult. Ashley is recaptured and taken to an island where the cult science laboratory is located. Leon follows pursuit, rescues Ashley yet again, and escapes the island just before it blows up. Throughout the journey, Leon runs into a few interesting characters that help him along the way. The most exciting of these is the return of Ada Wong. Ada is the badass heel-wearing spy working for a secret organisation, and was presumed dead in the Raccoon City incident, where she first met Leon. The two are first reunited at the castle in RE4. Ada makes many appearances throughout the game, mainly to save Leon's life countless times, against her boss's orders. We find out that she has been hired by Albert Wesker, the series villain, to recover the Plaga sample. Ada is also a playable character in her own story mode called Separate Ways, which parallels Leon's. We find she is secretly working against Wesker in a dangerous game of cat and mouse, but for motivation, we don't know. Ada works with Leon to find Ashley and escape, but in true Ada fashion, she takes a sample off Leon at gunpoint and makes an exit that's a bit over the top. Ada is one of the most complex characters in the franchise, so it's great to see her back. Another ally you meet along the way is Luis Serra. Luis is a bit of a mysterious local, but he is a former police officer like Leon. He was recruited by cult leader Lord Sadler to do research on the Plaga. However, he too is secretly working against his boss as a contact for Wesker and Ada. Luis eventually obtains a sample of the virus. Unfortunately, it's after you meet Luis when you run into this guy. The most iconic character in RE4, the Merchant. Known for having some of the most famous lines in the series, impressive for a series with Barry Burton, the Merchant appears in every corner of the game to sell you weapons, buy treasure, and upgrade those weapons to be really powerful, especially against living things. In fact, some of the odd places you find him, like at the bottom of a trapdoor in the sewers, next to a pile of impaled bodies, which make you really question his business sense. But you'll always be glad to have him there for that sweet, sweet infinite rocket launcher. Leon's contact for this mission is Ingrid Hunnigan. Leon communicates with Hunnigan via a radio for most of the game, for updates on his progress and to supply information, until the radio gets jacked by the game's villains.
Salazar, how'd you...
We've jacked the line.
And finally we have
Mike!
We don't know much about Mike, but he seems he was working at the same agency as Leon. He pulls a huge assist of an attack helicopter towards the end of the game, so it's a shame he was killed so quickly, and will never get to go to that good bar he knew of. Leon encounters a series of villains that stand in the way of his objective. The first we come across is Bartorius Mendez, the big cheese of the village. We come across this tall, imposing, seemingly human figure several times in the village section, but he finally reveals his true form in this fight sequence. He's a very agile opponent, especially once you've blown him in half, and his top half swings from the rafters. Once he's dead, you grab his eye and you use it to unlock the gate at the castle. Upon entering the castle, Ashley and Leon encounter Ramon Salazar and his henchmen. Salazar is the ruler of the castle and the surrounding land and has the power to control the parasites. In a last-ditch bid to defeat Leon, he fuses himself with the Queen Plaga, a plant-like creature that produces parasites, to become a pretty powerful monster. Following the castle and the fight against Salazar, Leon heads across the island, where he bumps into his next opponent, Jack Krauser. Krauser, a soldier working with Ada and Wesker, has infiltrated the Los Illuminados, and is working under Sadler. Leon's first battle is entirely quick time events. If you don't know what these are, I'll be talking about them a little bit later on. The second fight is a bit more standard, with machine guns, grenades, a detonation timer, and Krauser sporting a new mutated blade arm. This was a really hard fight the first few times I did it, until I learned that his weakness is actually a knife. Don't bring a gun to a knife fight, I suppose. We do learn that Leon and Krauser have history, which is explored in a spin-off game, Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles. Finally, the big boss and head of the Los Illuminados, Osmond Sadler. He is the final boss and you must destroy him with what is now a Resident Evil cliché, a rocket launcher thrown to you by Ada. Overall, this is a decent list of enemies that will keep you occupied and provide good and varying challenges. The only disappointment is that these enemies weren't quite as intimidating as William Birkin and Mr. X in RE2 or the Nemesis in RE3. Of course, this is a Resident Evil game, and it wouldn't be complete without a large list of monsters for you to deal with. In RE4, the generic zombies of the previous games have been replaced, and the main low-level enemies are the Plagas-infected villagers, called the Ganados. These are much more intelligent and human than zombies, making them that much more dangerous. Ganados wield a range of melee and ranged weapons, and even sidestep your headshots. Later in the game, the Ganados are replaced by commandos, with armour and stronger weapons, including miniguns. To make matters worse, with zombies, a couple of headshots will put them down no problem, but if you do the same to a Ganados, there is a risk of a parasite coming out where their head was moments ago. These parasites sometimes do massive damage, and one variation can even do a one-hit kill. There are also plenty of mini-bosses throughout the game. The Del Lago is an aquatic creature that attacks Leon while he is on a dinghy early in the game. This one is actually a challenge as you can't use your weapons against it, you have to use harpoons. Don't forget that PlayStation trophy by shooting the water before you get in the boat. Next is the El Gigante, big, scary, and soaks up whatever bullets you have. These have a weak spot on their back and a vulnerability to molten lava. Garradors are blind with Wolverine claws. These things get challenging in confined spaces, or when there is more than one at a time. Verdugo, Salazar's right hand, can't be damaged without freezing with the conveniently placed nitrogen bottles lying around. And the Chainsaw Ganados, Dr. Salvador, the Bella Sisters, and all the other nameless chainsaw-wielding maniacs who will kill you instantly with their attacks. These are cool and all, but here are my top picks for scariest and favourite monsters. My top pick for mini-boss is It. No, not the clown, the U3. A horrifying blend of human, insect and lizard, all infused into a human host. Leon is thrown into a series of suspended cages, and must rush to unlock the gates and escape before they drop into the canyon below, all the while trying to evade the U3. Thankfully, you escape just in time. Once you reach solid ground, you are attacked once again by this creature, in what is one of the most toughest fights of the game. One of the most annoying and scariest monsters are the Navistadors, at least the first variation. After Ashley is kidnapped for like the 23rd time, the first ones you encounter in the sewers can turn themselves invisible. Not particularly hard to kill, these oversized insects spit acid, and even melt your face off if you let your health bar get too low. And then my overall favourite for scary monster is the Regenerators. These are the standout creatures of RE4. Listen to them, just listen. This has got to be one of the scariest things I've ever heard. They get even worse. Eventually, you come across a couple of the Iron Maidens, which are regenerators covered in spikes that grab and impale you. These things are really difficult to kill without explosives, and they require a thermal scope for the sniper or a lot of bullets to hit the parasites covering its body. Regenerators get a name from their regeneration abilities, so if you don't kill the plagas on their body, they'll just keep healing and attack you. Resident Evil 4 is a very different game to the first three, and marked the evolution of the franchise towards a more modern action style. The originals had claustrophobic narrow location designs, fixed camera angles concealing monsters lurking in plain sight of the characters we were controlling, and additionally players were limited in their ability to dispatch enemies, with the gun controls restricting players to aiming up, down or directly in front. While some of these game mechanics are carried over to RE4, the third person perspective over the shoulder camera provided the ability to aim rather than just shoot directly ahead, adding a dynamic element to the action of the game. This gave players more options when dispatching enemies, whether that's shooting a stick of dynamite in the villager's hand, or sniping the parasites attached to a regenerator. Another change to the gameplay is the update to the inventory management system. Gone is the old 6 to 8 slot system of the previous games. Instead, Leon is equipped with a briefcase to hold all of his items, filling up space according to the size of the items. The size of the case can also be upgraded through purchases from the merchant. This gave greater flexibility of item management while maintaining carrying limits. Also, it's extremely therapeutic to organise and make sure everything fits perfectly in its place. Another update was the computer AI. For example, the Granada's movements were a lot more challenging. Hordes were much more strategic in attacking the player, used weapons and would even dodge headshots. It gave a refreshing aspect to the most basic enemies of the game and made them really complex and aggressive. But all of this stuff that I'm talking about is about a game that is 14 years old, so why am I discussing it now? This game still holds up today. I remember playing through for the first time and the moment that I realised how amazing this game was. How did this game introduce us to a new brand of Resident Evil? The answer? The village. Early in the game as you wander in the countryside, you approach a village and you see it is full of ganados. For a little while you get to stand back and scout the village, and you can even stealth around a little bit, but eventually you'll be seen and you'll be swarmed. You get attacked by a seemingly endless wave of enemies, forcing you to feel a sense of dread and panic. You haven't got much ammo and you're not equipped for this, especially early on in the game when you haven't got a hang of the controls and the situation specific commands. I remember after a couple of goes I changed up my strategy and I went into a house to hide, but that was a mistake. As soon as you enter one of the houses it gets surrounded and ganados start pouring in through the front door, the windows and even the windows on the upper floor. And to make it even worse, Dr. Salvador, the chainsaw guy, will come crashing in, and in close quarters it is really difficult to stay alive. This forces you out of the building again if you can make it, until eventually the bell rings and all the ganados just turn around and leave you alone. You don't actually survive on your own skills, you're just lucky enough that Ada rings a bell to distract them all for you. This village introduces you to the enemy and the gunplay styles, the larger level designs and the complexity of the whole game. This opening was so good that Capcom tried to replicate it in RE5. As fantastic as this game is, it's still not perfect, and there are some elements that really grate on me. RE4 introduced QTEs, quick time events, and situation specific commands. The latter I think is a great addition, as it allows the player to do things outside general controller capabilities. QTEs on the other hand I have a problem with. QTEs were an attempt to make cutscenes more engaging, deliberately designed to prevent the audience from zoning out while the scenes are on. How this works is that the screen comes up with a command that you need to execute instantly or else you're punished by it, generally with an instant death. One that stupidly caught me off guard was during a cutscene of Leon's first encounter with Krauser. I wasn't ready for it, missed a QT prompt and died instantly. I get that it creates more action, but personally I feel like it gets a bit redundant after a while, as all you're rewarded with is the story progressing in the exact same way as it would if it was just a plain cutscene. I do think RE4 was enhanced a bit by the QT and action prompt system, as it implements actions that can't be found in standard gameplay, and in its day it was great, but I'm over it. Another issue is Ashley. Ashley keeps getting bloody kidnapped.
Watch out for me!
A common problem with a lot of escort games is that trying to protect Ashley is a pain, as the enemies will carry her away or attack her unless you have the armor costume unlocked. Another thing that confuses me is Mecha Salazar. Like, what even is this? Running away from Mecha Salazar using quick time is one of the strangest sequences of the game. Why has Salazar got a large robotic statue of himself?
Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
But despite that, overall RE4 is such an amazing game. I highly recommend it. If you haven't played it in a while, yeah, definitely go back. If you haven't played it before, you can buy it. It is an icon in video game history and is definitely worth the playthrough. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is the first time I've made a video like this, and it was such a big one for my first time. I've got a few more videos coming, including the Resident Evil 2 Remake, which I'm so excited for. So be sure to like and subscribe to see more, and come back anytime.